I'm Greg Hunter. Welcome to USAWatchdog.com. This is the weekly news wrap up for Friday, August 16th, 2019. I have a little different type of format today. I have a special guest standing by, and I'm only going to talk to you about the economy. I'm not talking to you about Jeffrey Epstein and all the questions about his murder, although I will be talking about that some with Kevin Shipp in the early Sunday release. He's going to talk about how the Epstein case and the case to try to take down the president and the hoax is all entwined. Kevin Shipp, the former CIA officer and whistleblower, will be the guest for the early Sunday release. But I'm not going to talk to you about Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar being denied out of Israel, although I think they have a good case for that. I'm not talking to you about any of the other many different stories. I'm only talking to you about the economy because I think that is what is the biggest story out there, and people are not really taking in the dramatic problems with the economy. And it's really the dramatic problems with the debt. Yes, America is doing better than the rest of the world. Of that, there is no doubt. We're sucking in capital. Everywhere else is flailing around. They have negative interest rates in Europe. Capital is coming to the United States. Donald Trump has done all this drilling, opened up Anwar. We are a net oil exporter, or we're one of the biggest oil producers in the world now. He's cut all these regulations. He brought back all this capital. He's got a huge job. I mean, he walked into office with $28 trillion in debt, and then, oops, surprise, Mr. President, there's another $21 trillion in missing money. And this just didn't happen in the 2.5 or so years that Donald Trump has been in office. This has been a long time coming. And I want to tell you, I want to reemphasize this, the pretending is ending. That's why we're seeing these gyrations in the stock market and these 800-point down days in the stock market. The markets have been so distorted. Every market has been so distorted. It's trying to reprice. And some of the markets are going to reprice much lower. And some of the things like gold and silver are going to reprice much higher. It's absolutely unbelievable. What we've been pretending that debt is money, that we're going to pay back all these hundreds of trillions of dollars in debt. We're going to grow our way out of it. We're pretending that bonds are assets. We're pretending that we didn't grow this debt from back in 2007 to 160 trillion in 2007, 2008 up to 250 trillion. Nobody is disputing that number. That's the global debt. Add on the derivatives on top of that, and we're pretending that everything is going to be okay. We're pretending that we can pay all that off and everybody is going to be made whole. The pretending is ending. Now, when does it end? Well, that's the big question now, isn't it? But there sure are some shaky signs that the pretending is ending. And my guest, which I'll introduce to you in just a minute, is going to come in and back up all of what I'm saying with his own analysis and his own stuff. But, this took a long time coming, folks. I mean, remember long-term capital management? I mean, I remember the reports back in 1998. We were looking into the abyss. They had a $1.25 trillion in notional derivatives. They almost took down the entire world financial system, long-term capital management. After that, we got the dissolution of the Glass-Steagall Act through the Graham-Bliley-Leach Act. Remember that? The Clinton administration put that in. I think I mistakenly said it was Bush. But no, it's the Clinton administration dissolved the firewall between investment banking, do all the crazy investment you want, but you're going to go down when you go down and no bailout. And then the commercial banking, which is, your community bank and checking accounts. So anyway, taxpayer got on the hook. And then we had the dot-com bubble. And then we had the real estate bubble, the subprime bubble. And of course, Congress dutifully took most of that junk off their books. I mean, they were spending at one point $40 billion a month, and you couldn't get anybody on either side of the aisle to ask the bankers, hey, what are you doing with that money? But they were fighting over $85 billion in sequester total. They took $500 billion off their books overtly, the banks. And then when Bush left office, we had $10 trillion, and we're pretending that wasn't an unpayable debt. We're pretending that the 20 trillion in 22, 23 trillion dollars deficit we have, along with the $21 trillion in missing money that Dr. Mark Skidmore and his team of PhD level students at Michigan State Universities found out through Office of Inspector General reports at HUD and DOD. We're pretending that's not a real number either. We're pretending that everything is okay and we can keep doing this forever. The pretending is ending. And let me give you another little sign on the road to perdition, on the road to the pretending is ending. Remember Mr. Markopolos, and he outed the Bernie Madoff scheme. Here we go again. GE falls the most in 11 years. This has flown right under the radar. After Madoff whistleblower calls it a bigger fraud than Enron's. Let that sink in. General Electric, GE falls the most in 11 years. Madoff whistleblower Harry Markopolos targeted the conglomerate in a new report accusing it of issuing fraudulent financial statements to hide the extent of its problems. He even has a website, gefraud.com. He went through the 10Ks of General Electric and went back from 2002 to 2018 and says, yep, there's a lot of junk here. And he says it's a bankruptcy waiting to happen. Do you think there's just one roach in the Dow 30? You think there's just one roach in the S&P 500? When you see a roach and you kill it, did you get all of them? Do you think GE is the only company lying and cheating about that? Is the only zombie company? If you do think that, you're pretending. Now this is, don't get me wrong, America is, when Donald Trump says we have the strongest economy, he's right, we do. Relative to the rest of the world, the United States has the strongest economy in the world. But the rest of the world can take down the United States of America. We can't hold it all up. And remember, we went from 120 to 160 trillion dollars in global debt to 250 trillion, and add on all the derivatives, and then add on all the commitments. So for everybody's pension and Social Security and medical payments and da 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 da. We're pretending we're going to come up with a couple $100 trillion in money that we need right now, and that's according to some of the top experts in the business, that we can pay all this off. Well, we can't. And then you take a look at how weak it is around the world. You talk about Donald Trump and, the mainstream media is like, oh, he's losing the trade war. Let me tell you, I did trade war with China. And let me tell you, I think he backed off because he was afraid he was going to push China over. That's what I think. I think China is very weak. Jim Rickards, who's been a guest on this show, 4-time best-selling author, came out and said, listen, China is, they're devaluing their yuan. And that means there's a capital flight from China, so they're losing. You heard the president talk about this on his Twitter account and also live, and nobody has disputed this. He says thousands of companies are leaving China. Excuse me? Thousands of companies are leaving China. They're winning the trade war? Really? No, they're not. And then their banking sector is in big trouble. China's small banks, this is today's story, struggle to obtain funds to lend after 3 months after the first bank failure in 20 years in China. That's Boshang Bank. Supposedly some of the other big banks are in deep trouble. They have capital flight. And then let's add in Hong Kong, okay? So we all thought, Tank Man, whatever happened to him? Oh, well, the Chinese are just, they're really smart and they're good businessmen. It's a totalitarian, one-party, Christian-hating, organ harvesting, dictator for life, social credit scoring, a nation that steals intellectual property and is about ready to crack down on Hong Kong. And they've got 30,000 troops waiting to go into Hong Kong. And let me tell you, if the bloom isn't off the Hong Kong rose after this, Mary Barra building Chevys in China, you're stupid. Then after they start clubbing these people and shooting them with the Chinese Red Army going into Hong Kong to put them under control, maybe a couple of neurons will touch together for some of these execs, and maybe it's not a good idea for us to build stuff in a totalitarian communist regime where if you step out of line, you end up in a van down by the river. China is not winning the trade war. They're not. This is according to Jim Rickards, who's been over there, 50 times in the last 25 years or so. First time he went over was 1991, he says, and been over there many times. Let's go to the other side of the ocean. So why is all this capital flowing into the United States? Well, I don't know. Negative interest rates will give you $100, and in 5 years, we'll give you back $90. or whatever. Negative interest rates. 15 trillion so far in the world. That's what they admit to. Who knows if there's not more than that. This is why you're seeing a bid in silver. This is why you're seeing a bid in gold. It's a flight to quality. It's a flight to safety. They've been telling you this is an old relic, and they've been suppressing the price, but the pretending is ending. And let's go no further than this little monster that's waiting to happen. This disaster, Deutsche Bank. This is August 15th at 7:04, 644, down 3.74%. Down only 25 cents, but that's 3.74%. Let's see. Back in 2007, it was 140 bucks a share. Back in October 2018, it was 21 bucks a share. And now, hey, folks, look at this, 644. What did Charles Nenner say? Charles Nenner, the great geopolitical and financial cycle guy that I had on here. Let's see. If it goes below $8, worry. If it goes below 640, it's going to go down to zero. Nenner says you can interrupt it and you can stall it, but you can't stop a trend. Let's see, 120 in 2007 and 644 today. What does the trend look like to you of that stock? Where do you think that stock is going? Back to 120? Back to 20? Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Who I have waiting in the wings here is none other than the guy that said back in the end of May, hey, gold's going to go up and so is silver, and we may get a pretty good market crash in July. And on the last day, 333 points after they cut rates for the first time in 10 years, the Federal Reserve. Bo Polny of Gold2020.com. Bo Polny, thanks for joining us today on USA Watchdog in a special edition of the Weekly News Wrap-Up.
Greg, it's always a pleasure to be with you, and thank you for having me. Thank you.
You said that gold would go up. Check. You said that silver would go up. Check. You said that the market would crash. A little check. Last day of July. You didn't get that totally right, but you got a good start on the last day of July and the subsequent days. What's going on with the markets? What should people know?
We live in biblical times, Greg, and what's coming is going to be biblical. I can just start off by telling you this one thing. God promised that 2019 will be the crash of the century. This crash is expected to occur potentially this month yet, before month end August into September. So we are living, so the times in our last interview, I said it was supposed to happen in July. It didn't happen in July, but it began in July on the last day. And we are now days away potentially from one of the largest market crashes in history. And if you look what's been going on in the markets these past 2 weeks, today's the 15th into the 16th. So, just yesterday, the market dropped 800 points in one day. This is only a start. This will be nothing. What is expected to occur, then this coming crash this month into September will take out, in other words, go lower than the crash that occurred in December of last year. So we're looking potentially somewhere in the 30 to 40% drop on the markets imminently.
I keep up bringing up Deutsche Bank, and I want to tell people why I do that. I just pick on them for nothing. I mean, the International Monetary Fund back in 2016 said they were the most systemically dangerous bank in the world. Charles Nenner says, well, it's not just them. There's plenty of other banks over there if you look at the banking sector. I mean, there's so many ways for this biblical prediction of yours to come true. General Electric is the latest, signpost on the whoa, where the pretending is ending routine. And that China is, everybody's making out like they're so strong. There are so many ways for this wildfire to have a 55-gallon drum of gas turned over on it. Is there not?
Well, absolutely. And what's going to happen when the market crash occurs, please understand, it's not just going to be the United States. It's going to be a worldwide market crash. This worldwide market crash does specifically three things, which I wanted to cover here on the charts. Let me pull it up here. But the market crash specifically, and these are 4 points that I want to be very, very specific on. The plunge that's coming, and these are God's words. It'll be quick, rapid, and sudden. That's number one.
You mean like an 800-point drop in the Dow in one day?
Oh, that's That's nothing. We're talking thousands of points in
Wow.
a day, Greg. Okay, so 800 is a warm-up. Okay, so we are not going to see an 800-point drop. That was just the drop we saw just this week. What's coming is in the thousands, not in the hundreds. Okay, this next drop, point number two, will shake the faith and confidence. Now that's critical because what's been holding everything together, Greg? Faith and confidence in the paper monetary system. This crash that will be heard around the world will shake the faith and confidence in the monetary system as we know it today. Okay. The third point, they will not know. This is God's words. They will not know what hit them. So when this happens, it'll be quick, sudden, and they will not know what hit them. And the last point is they will try to stop this, but they will fail because God the Father is in control.
Well, when you say try to stop it, I mean you're talking about guarantees, massive money printing. You had the Fed president of the New York Fed who runs the the intervention operations. He's saying rates should be 0%. And one of the big banks is talking about more QE. So you're saying they're going to stop it by money printing and QE, and they're going to go crazy. Is that right? Am I wrong?
Well, what has been happening all along, right? The market drops one day, they turn on the printing press, and they rallied up the next day. So how many days have we seen that going on, right? That is called price manipulation. So all that's been happening is in these fake markets is that the market will drop one day, then it rallies right back up the next day or 48 hours later. Why? Because they don't want to let the markets crash, because a crashing market or a crash in the market will do one thing. It'll break the faith and confidence in the system as we know it. So you can't have a market crash. But this market crash is the event that will trigger the snowball of events that follow suit. And so
in other words, we get a really bad crash, and then money printing, we get to 0%. I was going to say March or April. Now I'm thinking December or November.
Well, I will actually agree with what you just said. Now, March and April, so March, April, that February, so the spring season. Okay, so God does things in seasons. Right now, we are in the season that changes our world forever. There's 4 seasons. It starts with summer, and it ends with next summer or into spring of next year. So the first season is the one that initiates all the changes. And then, so you just said March and April. I fully agree with you in that time frame. That's the spring season. Which
you think by then rates will be? You think rates will be zero? Well,
that's the break. That's the collapse of the dollar.
And you think rates will be zero by then?
Well, the dollar breaks. That will lead to the bonds blowing up. So first the market crash, and then it just snowballs and it gets worse and worse. And that's why gold's going to have 2 legs.
So there'll be fits and starts. In other words, we'll have, some, you were telling me on the phone in the pre-interview that, we're going to have a little sell-off in the gold market and you should sell your mining shares. That's what you're telling people now, your subscribers.
Well, we're supposed to have a minor pullback. When I say minor, you don't want to, it's just, if you're selling, you better know to get back in pretty quickly because the pullback's going to be very quick. If there is a pullback here into next week, it is possible we might get a quick gold pullback just because the 1535 to 1560 is a very heavy resistance point. If you look at a long-term chart, that's what stopped the crash 3 times back in, I think it was 2011 and 12 and 13. So on a chart, support becomes resistance on the way up. So right now we're at resistance. So I believe we're going to have a pullback here next week. Once it pulls back briefly, it's like a slingshot. It's going to come back, and then the arrow is going to be let go, and you're going to see gold, silver go vertical in the month of September. Again, I was thinking that was going to be in July because the market's crash started in July. Gold and silver explode vertical. In other words, go limit up. Expected to happen on the end of the 8th year from the top, which puts it into September, October of what we're looking at right here. And then these are biblical times. So I want to show you some numbers.
Hold on just a minute. I wanted to break in here just a minute. I had some of your subscribers last time you were on, right after the last time you were on, and people were scoffing at your prediction that gold and silver would go up. and your Bitcoin subscribers, your people that are following you, have several different things. They were saying, hey, he's been right on about Bitcoin. He's been killing it. And now, you know what I'm getting now? I'm getting people saying, yeah, I guess Bo Polny was right about gold and silver. I mean, when you came on in the end of May 25th or so, gold was 1280. Yeah, hold it still.
Yeah, there it is right there.
Yeah, hold it still. Come on, move it over and stop right there. Gold was like 1280, 1275. There you go. That's your chart. And silver was in the 14s, 14 and change. And, now it's 17 and change. And now it's 15 and change. And, ooh, boy, howdy. I mean, that's a pretty good move, saying it's going to go right up from here. It's going to go up. And it sure enough did.
Exactly. So from that starting point. Now,
and another thing is Netanyahu with Jared Kushner talking about the peace deal in Israel. That out. And that was just before
May 30th.
Yeah. So you've made a monster call here, man. You made a good call. That's especially and you were pretty. Listen, you made some bad calls, and you'll be the first to admit it. But the intervention and the money printing and the missing money funds that Rob Kirby says, wow, now we know how they manipulated the market so long. They're using this money they pay. It was cash. It wasn't bonds. So, there's been a lot of people that have missed it, but you've been right. I mean, you've been made some big calls. You said that the low in 15 was 1045. Bing, you were right.
To the day. Nailed it.
Yeah, you were right. So you had some big, it's hard to make these calls.
Well,
Greg, I got to tell you make the call. But you made the call on gold back in May, and you made the call on silver back in May, and you said, jump in, it's going to go up from here, and it's not going to look back. And sure enough, it did. And you're saying now might be a small pro. Where do you think gold and silver will go to? What are your price targets? I've heard some pretty wild price targets. What are your price targets?
Well, I'm not going to guess. I'm going to use the Bible, and I will show you how you do the math. And I think you will appreciate this, or hopefully your viewers will appreciate this.
Okay.
Now, first off, we're living in biblical times, so therefore, the start of all these events is Isaiah 26:21, where God will come out from his place and he will punish all of those for their iniquities. You want to know what punishment is in the iniquity? Turn on the news. Look at what's been going on. What did you preface this whole interview with, Greg? What's going on in the news? What are these
knocking out the president?
It's disgusting. Lying. It's absolutely disgusting what's going on in the world.
These rich people,
that is called iniquity. That is like the iniquities upon God, upon the world. So God is coming out from his place to punish these people, okay? And so punishment, if you then read Proverbs 6, 30 to 31, which is right here, when you steal, you pay back sevenfold, okay? So this is the initial move we're going to see on silver, okay?
So seven times...
Right.
Seven times 17.
So sevenfold increase right here is in the next 7 to 8 months max. We're going to see silver at $120.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
I've had other people say that silver is going to be it comes out of the ground 10 to 1, and that it should be $150 right now, 100 to 150 bucks. And these are important global people, and I can't disclose who they are, but I know who they are. Not a secret source, but a source that hasn't given me the green light to say this. But there's been plenty of people that say it comes out of the ground at 10 to 1. It should be, and it will be 10 to 1. And so, you should be $100 right now is what people are saying.
Well, but remember this, right? Anything that's held down in price excessively, the rebound is not going to go to 10 to 1. It'll overshoot it most likely. So in the years forward.
Well, right now it's 80 something. I mean,
right, it might actually go 1 to 1. It might
85 ounces of silver or something to 1 ounce of gold. I mean, isn't there something crazy like that? 90. I mean, it's
yes. Right now, last I checked, it was 85 or something. It might be 80 or something now. Okay. But yeah, it was like
80 or 90. 80 or 90 ounces of silver make 1 ounce of gold. What about your AU? What about gold? Same thing.
Well, gold on this initial move is going to easily go over 5, and before year end, it should at least do not 7, but probably 3.5. So what does that take it to? Probably in the $5,000 range before year end. Could go higher, but I think at least in the $4,000 to $5,000 to $6,000 range before year end. Again, gold's a little harder to calculate. Silver's more explosive, so I apply the biblical calculations to it. But I think hands down. The target that I gave, 120-ish by 7th month when this started so that will be December, latest January. We're looking at $120. And that is, remember, that is just punishment. That's like your fee for, that's to restore. That's the restoration.
And wait, and let me.
That's not blessings.
Okay. And then blessings. Add on the blessings. What are we going to get out of that? You think?
So now you want to add on blessings. Let's get into that. That's where it gets really exciting. So but this is for people. So we're speaking here today, and half the people that we're, a majority of people we're speaking of, they're listening to what we're saying, Greg, but they're not hearing it. And what they're saying, oh, this is never going to happen, because we don't live in biblical times. None of this is true. But I started off this presentation. I'm saying that God is in control, and God's words, when he uses words, what did I say? 2019 will be the crash of the century. Those were not my words. Those were God's words, okay? And so when God moves his hand with Isaiah 26:21, then those who believed and acted accordingly, then they will be blessed. Now, what are blessings? Blessings are stated in Mark 4:20. And this is what talks about blessings. Blessings come in 2020. Blessings come next year. Okay? So those who hear the word and receive it, God will bring forth the fruit. So the fruit is a multiple of 30, possibly 60, possibly 100. But those are the multiples of what God will bring in terms of fruit when he multiplies. So let's do the math on that. Here's the fruit for silver for next year.
Hold on still. 50, 500, 1,000, 1,700. Holy cow. You're thinking
so we're looking, so minimum, remember, but this is when the bonds break, right? You break those bonds and you tell me it's going to be hard to get silver to $500. Absolutely not, okay? Now, I don't know which number is going to get hit next year, but I'm telling you, we're looking minimum $500, up to 1,000, could be 17, but 500 would be minimum with relation.
And you don't think that Trump can put this off? You don't think that he can? Okay, I think he's been trying to put it off, but he's not going to.
Greg, who's in control?
Not Trump.
God. Okay.
But here's
the thing.
But here's another thing. You tell me that. Hold on. You've told me this. I want to get this out because we're running short on time. You've told me that Trump's going to get reelected. No, he's in here to take care of this. He's not here to. He's here to take care of what's going on right now. So you're telling me that you predict Trump will be reelected no matter what.
No matter, just because when the market events occur, he knows how to fix it. He will repair the damages. The world will then step up and appreciate what he did, and he will become, very much, they're going to look up to this man for what he just pulled off in reaction to what God did intentionally, because ultimately God put him in office to be there for this event. Those were not my words. Those were God's words. Okay. And so God has a plan, and we live in biblical times. God is in charge, not you, not me, and not the people in Washington.
So you're thinking that there's going to be a lot of bonds. These bonds are going to get creamed. I mean, we've been pretending that we can pay back all this debt. We're not going to pay it back. We've been pretending. That's ending.
Yes, this is the crash of the century, and it starts in 2019. We're going to see it here. That's going to lead into the dollar crash. That's going to lead into the bond crash, and then when all this happens, you're going to see epic moves on gold and silver. But all the gold and silver moves start this year. They're supposed to start in September.
And when you take a look at the debt, I mean, you think, oh, how could that happen? I don't know, 250 trillion in debt. And what did Egon von Greyerz say? The total amount of commitments is 2 quadrillion. That's his number. He's a 20-year European banker and vaults gold in 2 locations around the globe for very rich people. He says it's 2 quadrillion. You look at the 250 trillion. We've exploded the debt. We've exploded the derivatives. We've exploded the stock market. We've exploded the bond market, the commodities market. I mean, oh, the 1, 2, 8. Okay, go ahead.
So you just mentioned the stock market, right? So you got the stock market. Look at that. See that line that starts, I think it's where it is, right here?
Yeah.
Okay, you trace it up. Okay, so remember how everybody kept saying, oh, everything's wonderful. It's all great.
Right,
it's all great. Okay.
Yeah.
That's the line, the delineating line. You break below that line and it's game over.
And you say, they're on the August
below
game
right
over.
Now. We broke the line on August 5th. Okay, so July 31st, the crash began. The market's been plunging. Now they've dropped below the
That's a good
line.
chart.
They trade below the line right now. And now that line's broken, all that remains is a plunge below this point here. This is a 20% drop, and we're going to easily take this out on the plunge. The plunge itself is going to come. And remember, the 8th month is right we're here. So 1, 2, 4 months, and then we've got the 8th month right here is August. So we're supposed to see a massive world market collapse in August into September. And so that's where the markets are at right now, and expect this 1, 2, 4 timeline. This is God's timeline, and this is how it's laid out. And this chart also, Greg, I did provide you the link for all your viewers, so please put all these charts.
Yeah, I will. There's you have a little Google presentation. I'll put the actual link to that little Google presentation in there. It's a free presentation. You can follow along with all the stuff. You didn't get to all of it, but this is a little interesting, a little different. I only want to talk about the economy because I think it's really shaky. And it's not Donald Trump's fault. Please don't think I'm a Trump hater. I'm not. He walked into office with $41 trillion. I know 20 trillion, but add in the 21 additional. That's what we know of missing money. It's just an unbelievable amount of debt out there, folks. I mean, we're pretending we're going to pay it off, and pretending is ending. Bo Polny from Gold2020Forecast.com. Is that right? Is that the right? That's the right website?
Yes, go to our website, Gold 2020 Forecast. We have actually what I do recommend is go to YouTube, type in Gold 2020 Forecast, or just Gold 2020, or my name, Bo Polny, and go to the YouTube channel. There's some really, really good videos I just uploaded the past couple of weeks.
I know they're free. I mean, you have paid subscribers.
I'm just warning, I'm just telling you what I'm getting, and I'm actually taking what other prophets have. I put it together, and I'm compiling data for people to watch. And remember, God doesn't give a prophet or one person all the information. And so you have to piecemeal everything. What I did for you in this presentation, I piecemealed a whole bunch of information. And what I'm getting, I dropped it onto charts. And then I took biblical, lines, and I applied calculations to them. And so this is what's coming. And I'm going to ultimately, by next year, the world is going to come to realize God is in charge. And this was his plan. And God the Father is in control of it all.
And with that, I will leave it, and I will also give you my thing. Bo, thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. Bo Polny, thank you for coming on and joining us today in the Weekly News Wrap-Up. And with that, I'm going to tell you that, I want to thank you all for your donations. I want to thank you all for your comments. Last week, I kind of dropped an F-bomb on the thing when I talked about what they were saying about Mitch McConnell stabbed the MF-er in the heart. I had it printed. It was written in the story. I got some flack for that, and rightly so. I shouldn't have done that. So I'm sorry for that. But I was reporting, what was being said. But I should have handled that better. Anyway, thank you for all your comments. Thank you for all your donations. I really appreciate it. We'll see if this video stays monetized or not, but I don't care. And here's my ending, saying the line that would get me fired on network television: "Fear not. Prepare yourself mentally, physically, above all, spiritually. Fear not. God the Father and the Son, Jesus Christ, are all firmly in control."
Amen.